Commander Eliza Morgan yawned as she walked into the control room of Border Station Delta 9. Another quiet day watching the edge of Imperial space. The station hung in the darkness at the very edge of the Galactic Empire, a small outpost that rarely saw any action. "Morning, Commander," said Lieutenant Frank Collins, his eyes never leaving his screen. "Coffee's fresh." "Thanks, Frank." She grabbed a cup and settled into her command chair. "Anything on the sensors?" "Same as yesterday. And the day before that." Frank's voice was flat with boredom. In 5 years at this post, they had never encountered anything more exciting than the occasional trading vessel that had strayed off course. The Galactic Empire had known peace for 50 years. The million worlds under Emperor Zorix's rule followed strict laws and kept to their assigned routes through space. It was safe. It was orderly. It was, Eliza often thought, extremely dull. Her coffee was halfway to her lips when the alarm sounded. The shrill noise made her jump, spilling the hot liquid on her uniform. "What is that?" she asked, though she knew. It was the proximity alarm, a sound she had only heard during drills. Frank's fingers flew across his control panel. Unknown vessel approaching from Sector 7. Eliza was instantly alert. Empire ship. Negative. Running it through the database now. Frank's voice had lost all traces of boredom. No match found. "This ship isn't in any Imperial records." "Show me," she ordered. The main screen lit up with an image that made Eliza's heart beat faster. The ship was unlike anything she had seen before. Its hull was sleek and dark, with strange patterns that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. But most alarming was the speed reading at the bottom of the screen. "That can't be right," she said, pointing to the numbers. "Check your equipment." "Already did. 3 times. Frank looked up at her, his face pale. "Commander, that vessel is moving at speeds our scientists say are impossible." Eliza felt a chill run down her spine. The Empire had ruled space for thousands of years. Their technology was the most advanced in the known galaxy. No one should have ships that could outrun Imperial vessels. "Send the alert to Imperial Command," she ordered, "and open a channel to the vessel." "Channel open," Frank said after a moment. Eliza took a deep breath. "Unknown vessel, this is Commander Eliza Morgan of the Galactic Empire Border Station Delta 9. You are approaching Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately." They waited. 10 seconds passed. 20. 30. No response. Frank said. "Send the first warning beacon," Eliza ordered. Frank pressed a series of buttons. A small probe shot out from the station, racing toward the unknown ship. The beacon would explode harmlessly a safe distance from the vessel, creating a bright flash of light, the universal warning to stop. They watched as the beacon reached its target point and flashed brightly. The unknown ship did not slow down. If anything, it seemed to speed up. "They're ignoring the warning," Frank said, disbelief in his voice. Eliza pressed the emergency button on her command chair. Red lights began to flash throughout the station. "Send the second and third warning beacons," she said, her voice steady despite her rising fear. "And get me a direct line to Admiral Grant. This is now a Level 1 security breach." As Frank rushed to obey, Eliza stared at the strange ship on the screen. In all the history lessons she had studied at the Imperial Academy, she had never heard of anyone brave enough, or foolish enough, to ignore Imperial warnings and continue straight toward Empire space. "Who are you?" she whispered to the image. The strange ship grew larger on the screen as it continued its approach. Behind her, she heard Frank's voice, unnaturally high with stress as he spoke to Imperial Command. "Yes, sir." "Confirmed. The vessel's not in any records, and it's moving fast. Really fast." The first alarm in 50 years of peaceful Imperial rule continued to sound across the station. Humanity had arrived, and the Galactic Empire was about to panic. The Imperial Palace on Zorix Prime was a marvel of engineering. Its crystal towers reached into the clouds, catching the light of 3 moons. Inside the Grand Council chamber, Emperor Zorix sat on his ancient throne, his blue skin glowing with stress marks. "This meeting of the Imperial Council will now begin," he announced, his voice echoing in the vast room. The chamber was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some had scales, others tentacles. Some floated in special suits while others stood on multiple legs. Yet all shared the same worried expression. "Admiral Wood, explain the situation," ordered the Emperor. Grand Admiral Peter Wood stepped forward. His green scales shimmered under the chamber lights as he pulled up a holographic display. "Your Radiance, 6 hours ago, our border station detected an unknown vessel approaching Empire space," he said. "The vessel moves at speeds we thought impossible." "How fast?" asked Science Minister Kelmar, her 4 tentacles waving in agitation. "Twice as fast as our fastest ships," replied Wood. "Maybe faster." A wave of whispers washed through the council chamber. For 1,000 years, Imperial ships have been the fastest in known space. The Empire's power depended on it. "These readings must be wrong," insisted Minister Kelmar. "No civilization could build such technology without our knowledge." "The readings were checked multiple times," Wood said firmly. "The vessel is real, and it's heading straight for Centauri Station." Emperor Zorix leaned forward. "What do we know about where this ship comes from?" Intelligence Director Samantha Bell rose from her seat. She looked almost like the Emperor, except her skin was pale rather than blue. Her family had been taken from Earth long ago, but they had lost all contact with their home world. "The ship appears to be from a planet called Earth," she said. "Our scouts found it 2 centuries ago and reported a primitive civilization. They had just discovered basic flight and had not yet left their planet." "That's impossible," said Admiral Wood. "No species advances that quickly." "And yet, here they are," Bell replied. "Based on the ship's current course, they know exactly where they're going. They've passed 17 warning beacons without slowing down." Emperor Zorix's eyes narrowed. "They don't respect our warnings. Or they don't understand them," suggested Bell. "We have no way to know their intentions." The Emperor stood, his ceremonial robes flowing around him. "I want the Third Fleet mobilized immediately. Whatever these humans want, we must show strength." Admiral Wood bowed. "The fleet is already moving to intercept your Radiance." "And what about our people?" asked Minister Irvin of Public Information. "The news is already spreading. There's fear throughout the core worlds." Emperor Zorix waved a hand. "Tell them nothing yet. If this is just a lost ship or a misunderstanding, there's no need to cause panic." "And if it's not?" asked Bell quietly. The Emperor didn't answer. Instead, he turned to a small figure sitting silently at the end of the council table. "Professor Harris, you've studied old Earth records. What can we expect from these humans?" Professor John Harris stood slowly. As one of the few humans in Imperial service, all eyes turned to him. "The records are thousands of years old, your Radiance," he said cautiously. "But if humans haven't changed, they are curious, adaptable, and resourceful. They solve problems in unexpected ways." "Are they dangerous?" the Emperor asked directly. Harris hesitated. "Any species can be dangerous when threatened, but humans are particularly creative in their responses." Admiral Wood snorted. "One ship cannot threaten the Empire, no matter how fast it moves." "Perhaps," Harris said softly. "But where there is one ship, there may be others." The council chamber grew quiet as everyone considered this possibility. The Empire had stood unchallenged for 10,000 years. The idea of a new power emerging was unthinkable. Emperor Zorix returned to his throne. "Admiral Wood, you will stop this human vessel before it reaches Centauri Station. Use whatever force is necessary." "And if they resist?" Wood asked. The Emperor's eyes hardened. "Then show them why the Empire has endured for 10,000 years." As the council meeting ended, none of them noticed Professor Harris' worried expression. He alone understood what the Empire might be facing if humans had truly mastered space, and it frightened him more than he could say. Captain Alan Russell stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Pathfinder, a smile on his face as he watched the stars streak by outside. At 55, he had never expected to be the first human to make contact with an alien civilization. Yet here he was, commanding humanity's first deep space vessel, traveling faster than anyone had thought possible just 50 years ago. All systems working perfectly, Captain, reported Lieutenant Olivia Martinez from her control station. Her fingers danced across the glowing panel. The warp drive is stable at 120%. Thank you, Lieutenant, Russell replied. He ran a hand through his gray hair and turned to the science station. Dr. Sanders, what do we know about what's ahead? Dr. Noah Sanders looked up from his instruments. The young scientist had helped design the translation systems that would hopefully allow them to speak with whatever aliens they encountered. The signals are growing stronger, Captain, he said with excitement in his voice. Definitely artificial. Many different frequencies, very organized. We're picking up what seems to be visual transmissions too. Can you decode any of it? Asked Russell. Sanders shook his head. Not yet, but the patterns suggest a complex, multi-species civilization. The translation algorithms need more samples, but they're learning. Executive Officer Kate Williams joined them at the science station. Her uniform was crisp, and her expression serious, as always. Captain, we need to discuss those warning beacons we passed, she said. That's the 17th one. Russell nodded. I noticed. Each one was more urgent than the last. Williams continued. I think they want us to stop. Probably. Russell agreed. Any spacefaring civilization would mark their territory. Then shouldn't we stop? Williams pressed. This could be seen as aggressive. Russell turned to face his second-in-command. Our mission is clear, Kate. Humanity has spent decades preparing for this moment. The United Nations was very specific. We need to make direct contact with the central authority of whatever civilization we find. But, sir, think about it, Russell interrupted gently. If we stop at every warning, we might end up dealing with some minor border official who doesn't have the authority to establish diplomatic relations. Williams didn't look convinced. Or we might start an interstellar incident. Russell smiled. That's why we're approaching openly, with all lights on, broadcasting peaceful intentions on every frequency we know. And remember, the Pathfinder is unarmed. We still have shields, Williams pointed out. Defensive only, Russell said firmly. We're explorers, not invaders. The conversation was interrupted when Security Chief Carl Martinez called out from his station. Captain, I'm detecting energy readings ahead. Multiple objects moving in formation. Russell walked to the main view screen. Show me. The screen changed to show a group of ships moving toward them. They were sleek, with sharp angles and glowing engines. Even to human eyes, they looked like warships. Looks like we've got company, Russell said calmly. Dr. Sanders, any progress on communications? Working on it, sir, Sanders replied. Their signals just got a lot stronger. I think they're trying to talk to us, Olivia Martinez said. I'm picking up directed transmissions aimed right at us. Let's hear it, ordered Russell. The bridge speakers crackled with strange sounds, clicks, whistles, and tones that no human throat could make. Running it through the translation system, Sanders said, his fingers flying over his controls. It'll take time to build a proper translation, but the general message seems to be stop immediately. Russell considered their options. The approaching ships were clearly military vessels. Stopping might be safer, but it would also put the Pathfinder at a disadvantage if things went wrong. Increase speed, he ordered finally. Plot a course around their formation. We continue to Centauri Station, as planned. They might see that as running, warned Williams. Maybe, Russell acknowledged. But I'd rather appear cautious than threatening. Our mission is peaceful contact, and the best place for that is at their main diplomatic hub. As the Pathfinder accelerated, leaving the Imperial ship struggling to keep up, Russell gazed at the stars ahead. Humanity had waited centuries to meet their galactic neighbors. In just a few more hours, they would finally know what kind of welcome awaited them. Admiral Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Celestial Hammer. The massive Imperial warship led a formation of 30 vessels, all moving to intercept the human ship. Her blue skin had darkened with stress, a sign that her species showed when under pressure. "Status report," she demanded. "The unknown vessel has changed course," reported her tactical officer, a reptilian being named Commander Vex. "They appear to be heading toward Centauri Station." "Impossible," Grant said. "They can't know about our diplomatic hub unless—" Her eyes widened as she realized what this meant. "They've been monitoring our communications. They're smarter than intelligence claimed." Commander Vex looked troubled. "The alien ship is moving faster now. Our vessels cannot match their speed." Grant hit her fist against the command rail. In her 300 years of service to the Empire, she had never failed a mission. She would not start now. "All ships, new formation," she ordered. "Spread out to create a wider net. Calculate where they'll be and get ahead of them." "And if we can't intercept?" asked her second-in-command. "Then we make them stop," Grant said firmly. "Prepare warning shots across their bow." The Imperial fleet shifted formation, engines burning bright as they pushed to their limits. Yet the small Earth ship continued to pull away, its strange drive leaving a shimmer in space that Imperial sensors could barely track. On the Pathfinder, alarms began to sound. "Multiple weapons systems powering up," reported Security Chief Carl Martinez. "The alien ships are preparing to fire." Captain Russell remained calm in his command chair, defensive posture, shields to maximum. "We should stop, sir," urged Executive Officer Williams. "They're clearly willing to shoot. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have fired already," Russell pointed out. "These are warning shots designed to make us stop, and we're just going to ignore them?" Williams asked, disbelief in her voice. Russell nodded. "Our shields can handle it. And stopping now, surrounded by warships, puts us at a disadvantage." "Incoming energy weapons," Martinez shouted. The bridge crew braced as beams of green energy flashed past the Pathfinder, deliberately missing but close enough to show the aliens meant business. "No damage," Martinez reported. "Our shields didn't even register a hit." "They're being careful," Russell observed. "Send another message on all frequencies. Make it clear we come in peace and wish to speak with their leaders at Centauri Station." Dr. Sanders worked quickly at his console. "Message sent, Captain. I've included visual elements this time. Images of Earth, peaceful gatherings, scientific exchanges, universal concepts that should translate across species." "Good thinking," Russell approved. "Now increase speed. Let's end this chase." The Pathfinder's engines hummed as the ship accelerated to speeds that would have been impossible for Earth vessels just a decade earlier. The Imperial fleet fell further behind, their commanders watching in growing alarm as their quarry pulled away with apparent ease. Back on the Celestial Hammer, Admiral Grant stared at the tracking display in disbelief. "They're still accelerating," she asked. "How is that possible?" "Unknown, Admiral," Commander Vex replied. "But at this rate, they'll reach Centauri Station in 1 hour, well before we can catch them." Grant's skin darkened further. "Send an emergency message to Station Director Edwards. Tell him to prepare for first contact and potential hostile action." "Do you really think they're hostile?" asked her second-in-command. Grant considered the question carefully. "They ignored our warnings and outran our fastest ships. Either they're extremely confident or extremely foolish." She paused. "Or they know something we don't." As the Pathfinder disappeared from visual range, a feeling of unease spread through the Imperial fleet. For the first time in thousands of years, the Empire had encountered a ship they couldn't catch and a species they couldn't intimidate. The chase had failed. Now, the real test would begin at Centauri Station, where humans and the Empire would finally meet face to face. Centauri Station was the pride of the Empire, a massive structure where representatives from all 1,000 species could meet, trade, and settle disputes. The station was shaped like a giant wheel with spokes extending from a central hub. Different sections had different gravity, atmospheres, and temperatures to accommodate the diverse life forms of the Empire. Today, the station was in chaos. All non-essential personnel must evacuate to the inner rings, announced the station's computer system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Beings of all shapes and sizes rushed through the corridors. Some had tentacles, others had wings. Some floated in bubbles while others slithered along the floor. All shared the same worried expressions as they sought shelter. In the station's control center, Director Paul Edwards was trying to maintain order. As one of the few humans in Imperial service, he had a special interest in the approaching ship. The vessel will dock in 30 minutes, he informed the gathered ambassadors. Admiral Grant's fleet cannot intercept in time. We should arm all defensive systems, insisted the Brachian ambassador, a tall being with a colorful crest of feathers that rose when he was angry. Destroy them before they can dock. That would be unwise, Edwards replied. We don't know their intentions or capabilities. Their ship outran our fastest vessels. What else might it be capable of? You defend them because they look like you, accused another ambassador, this one a floating gas cloud contained in a special suit. Edwards shook his head. I defend caution. Violence should be our last option, not our first. Director Edwards is right, said Professor Harris, who had just arrived from the capital. If these humans wanted to attack, they wouldn't be approaching openly with their identification signals broadcasting. Then what do they want? Demanded the Brachian. The same thing any new species wants, Harris replied. Recognition, diplomatic relations, trade, knowledge. Edwards nodded. I propose we prepare a diplomatic reception rather than a military response. While the debate continued in the control center, the Pathfinder approached the massive space station. On its bridge, the human crew stared in wonder at their first view of alien architecture. It's incredible, breathed Dr. Diana Wright, the mission's anthropologist. The young woman had studied theoretical alien civilizations all her life, but nothing had prepared her for the real thing. The scale suggests multiple species of varying sizes. Look at those sections, added engineer George Howard, pointing at different parts of the station. They must have different environmental requirements. See how that area has a reddish glow, probably for species from stars cooler than our sun. Captain Russell nodded, taking it all in. This confirms our theories. We're dealing with a multi-species empire or federation. Incoming transmission, announced Lieutenant Olivia Martinez from Communications. I think they're finally ready to talk. Put it on screen, Russell ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed an image that made everyone on the bridge gasp. The being looking back at them appeared almost human, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. But his skin was deep blue, and his eyes were larger than any human's. Unknown vessel, the blue man said in a surprisingly good approximation of English. This is Director Paul Edwards of Centauri Station. You have entered Imperial space without authorization. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. Russell stood tall, straightening his uniform. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for. First official contact with an alien civilization. Director Edwards, I am Captain Alan Russell of the Earth ship Pathfinder. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations with your civilization. There was a pause. Then Edwards spoke again. Your ship has caused considerable concern within the Empire, Captain Russell. You ignored warning beacons and outran a military escort. We meant no disrespect, Russell replied. We believe direct diplomatic contact would be more productive than communication through military channels. I see, Edwards said, his expression unreadable. Docking instructions are being transmitted to your ship. You and a small delegation may board the station. The rest of your crew must remain aboard your vessel." "Understood," Russell agreed. "We look forward to meeting you face to face, Director Edwards." As the transmission ended, Russell turned to his senior officers. "Dr. Sanders, Dr. Wright, Lieutenant Martinez, you're with me. Executive Officer Williams, you have command of the Pathfinder until we return. Are you sure this is safe?" Williams asked quietly. Russell smiled. "No, but neither was leaving Earth. This is why we came all this way." The airlock door to Centauri Station hissed open. Captain Alan Russell took a deep breath and stepped forward, leading his small team into history. Behind him came Dr. Noah Sanders, Dr. Diana Wright, and Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, each chosen for their expertise in language, culture, and technology. The room they entered was large and circular. The walls glowed with a soft blue light. The air smelled different from Earth air, cleaner, with a hint of something like cinnamon. What caught their attention, though, were the beings waiting for them. At least 20 different species stood or floated around the room. Some were tall with multiple limbs. Others hovered in special suits. A few looked almost like insects or reptiles. And standing in front of them all was a blue-skinned man who looked remarkably human. "Captain Russell," the blue man said, stepping forward. "I am Director Paul Edwards. Welcome to Centauri Station." Russell extended his hand in the human greeting custom. After a moment's hesitation, Edwards took it. "Thank you for receiving us, Director," Russell said. "May I introduce my team? This is Dr. Noah Sanders, our communications specialist, Dr. Diana Wright, our cultural expert, and Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, our chief engineer." Edwards nodded to each of them, then gestured to the diverse group behind him. "These are the representatives of the Imperial Council. Some have traveled quite far to meet you." A tall being with feathers stepped forward, its crest rising in what Russell guessed was agitation. "Why did you ignore our warnings?" it demanded in a clicking voice that their translation devices struggled to keep up with. "We meant no disrespect," Russell replied calmly. "On Earth, we believe in direct communication. We thought it best to speak with your leaders rather than border guards." The feathered being made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You risk war for convenience." "Not at all," Russell said. "We come in peace and friendship. Our ship is unarmed." This caused a stir among the gathered aliens. They spoke to each other in various languages, their translation devices working overtime. "Unarmed?" asked a floating gas cloud in a containment suit. "How did you expect to defend yourselves?" "We didn't come to fight," Dr. Wright explained. "We came to learn and to share knowledge." Edwards held up a hand for quiet. "Captain Russell, your arrival has caused quite a stir in the Empire. No new species has made contact with us in over 500 years, and none has ever appeared with technology that surpasses our own." "We don't wish to cause alarm," Russell assured him. "Earth has been developing rapidly, it's true, but our goals are peaceful." A small being that looked like a child-sized blue octopus moved forward. "Your ship's drive system. It manipulates space-time in ways our science only theorized. How did you develop this?" Lieutenant Martinez smiled. "We call it the Alcubierre drive, after the scientist who first proposed it. It creates a bubble of space-time fat." "Perhaps such technical discussions can wait," Edwards interrupted. "The Imperial Council has many questions of a more political nature." Russell nodded. "We're happy to answer any questions. Earth is eager to establish good relations with the Empire." "And if the Empire is not eager for relations with Earth?" asked the feathered being. Russell met its gaze steadily. "That would be disappointing. But we respect your right to choose. We would leave peacefully if asked." This caused another stir. The aliens clearly hadn't expected such an answer. Edwards studied Russell for a long moment. "You are either very honest or very clever, Captain. Time will tell which." "Why not both?" Russell replied with a small smile. Edwards almost smiled back. "Indeed, Now, if you'll follow me, the formal diplomatic reception is waiting. The Emperor himself has requested to speak with you via hologram." As Russell and his team followed Edwards deeper into the station, they passed more aliens of different types. Some stared with obvious curiosity. Others backed away in fear. Dr. Wright leaned close to Russell. "They're terrified of us," she whispered. "But why? We're clearly outnumbered." "Fear isn't always rational," Russell replied quietly. "We represent something new and unexpected. The unknown is often scary." "Or perhaps," said Edwards, who had overheard, "they know exactly what to fear. A species that can advance from primitive flight to faster-than-light travel in just 2 centuries might be capable of anything." Russell had no answer for that. As they entered a grand hall filled with even more alien diplomats, he wondered if humanity's rapid progress might prove to be a blessing or a curse for first contact. 3 days had passed since the humans arrived at Centauri Station. The initial panic had settled into an uneasy curiosity. Countless meetings took place as both sides learned about each other. Imperial scientists examined the Pathfinder, while human delegates explored the station and met representatives from dozens of alien species. On the Imperial capital world, Emperor Zorix called Intelligence Director Samantha Bell to his private chambers. The room was simple compared to the grand halls where he usually met visitors. Here, he could speak freely. "Tell me what you've learned," the Emperor demanded, his blue skin glowing softly in the dim light. Director Bell placed a data device on the table between them. "We've analyzed their historical data, Your Radiance. It appears the humans achieved their technological advancement through cooperation rather than conquest." "Explain," the Emperor ordered. "Their species was divided into competing nation-states for most of their history," Bell said. "But over the past century, they gradually unified. Their scientific progress accelerated as they shared knowledge freely across their entire planet." "Impossible," said Grand Admiral Wood, who had just entered the room. His scales flared with disbelief. "No species advances without the pressure of warfare or imperial guidance." "Nevertheless," Bell continued, "they've compressed technological development that took us millennia into just a few centuries. Their approach is different. They propose theories, test them publicly, and build upon each other's work." Emperor Zorix's luminescent eyes narrowed. "And their military capabilities." "That's the surprising part," Bell replied. "Despite their advanced technology, their military is relatively small. The Pathfinder isn't even a warship. It's an exploration vessel. Yet its defensive capabilities exceed our finest battlecruisers," Admiral Wood added reluctantly. "Our scans show their shield technology is at least 3 generations ahead of ours." The Emperor stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the capital city spread below. "What do they want from us?" "Knowledge, primarily," Bell answered. "They're extremely curious. Their delegates have requested access to our historical archives, scientific databases, and cultural records." "And what have they offered in return?" the Emperor asked. "Their drive technology," Bell said, "and something they call fresh perspectives." Captain Russell suggested that their different approach to science might help solve problems we've struggled with for centuries. "How generous," Admiral Wood said sarcastically. "They offer us technology they know we'll eventually discover on our own." "Actually," Bell corrected, "our scientists believe we might never have discovered their drive system. It required a conceptual leap that goes against traditional imperial scientific methods." The Emperor turned from the window. "You sound impressed, Director." "I am cautious, Your Radiance," Bell replied carefully. "But yes, also impressed. In just 3 days, their linguist, Dr. Sanders, has learned to speak 4 imperial languages. Their anthropologist, Dr. Wright, has already identified cultural connections between species that our own scholars missed. They learn quickly." "Too quickly," muttered Admiral Wood. On Centauri Station, Captain Russell and Dr. Wright were walking back to the Pathfinder after another long day of meetings. The station's artificial day cycle was transitioning to night, with lighting dimming in the public areas. What do you think? Russell asked his anthropologist. 3 days of talks. Are we making progress? Dr. Wright nodded thoughtfully. They're beginning to trust us, I think. Director Edwards is definitely on our side. He seems almost proud to have other humans here. And the others? Mixed, Wright replied. The scientific community is excited about our technology. The military is suspicious. The political representatives are calculating advantages and disadvantages of relations with Earth. Pretty much what we expected, Russell said with a small smile. What I find fascinating, Wright continued, is how slow their technological development has been. They've been in space for over 10,000 years, but their advancement has been remarkably steady and methodical. Their civilization prioritizes stability over innovation, Russell observed. Change is carefully managed across all 1,000-member species. It makes sense when you're trying to keep peace among so many different types of beings. Wright stopped walking and turned to face her captain. And now we've arrived, moving faster than they thought possible, with technology they don't understand. No wonder they panicked, Russell concluded. As they reached the Pathfinder's docking bay, they found Dr. Sanders waiting for them, excitement clear on his face. 6 months after the arrival of the Pathfinder, Centauri Station hosted an historic event. The Grand Assembly Hall was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. The air was charged with excitement and nervous energy. Captain Alan Russell stood on a raised platform beside Emperor Zorix. The Emperor's blue skin gleamed under the ceremonial lights, his formal robes shimmering with symbols of power that dated back thousands of years. In contrast, Russell wore a simple Earth uniform, with just a small United Nations patch on the shoulder. Today marks the beginning of a new era for both our civilizations, declared the Emperor, his voice carrying throughout the vast hall. The Treaty of Centauri establishes formal relations between the Galactic Empire and Earth. Russell stepped forward to the shared podium. Humanity is honored to join the galactic community, he said. We have much to learn from your ancient wisdom, just as we hope our perspective brings fresh insights to the Empire. Together, they touched their hands to the treaty document, which glowed in response, recording their biometric signatures. The crowd erupted in applause, with beings of all shapes and sizes expressing approval in their own ways. What few in the audience knew was how much had changed in those 6 months. The panic that had begun with Commander Morgan's alarmed report. That vessel's not in any records, and it's moving fast, had transformed into something else entirely, a renaissance of innovation across Imperial space. Later that evening, Russell stood with Director Edwards on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. 3 more ships from Earth arrived this morning, Edwards said. Your Explorer-class vessels are quite impressive. Russell nodded, each with a different propulsion system. Our engineers keep trying new approaches. That's what fascinates the Imperial scientists, Edwards said. Your willingness to experiment. The Empire has been doing things the same way for so long that we forgot there might be other paths. Change can be frightening, Russell acknowledged. Indeed, Edwards agreed, but necessary. The Emperor himself said as much in the council meeting yesterday. Russell turned to look at the blue-skinned man who had become something of a friend. What happens now? The knowledge exchange begins in earnest, Edwards replied. Imperial historians sharing our records of the galaxy. Earth scientists teaching new theoretical frameworks. The construction of your embassy here continues, and work has begun on an Imperial diplomatic station in your solar system. And the military situation? Russell asked carefully. Edwards smiled. Admiral Wood still doesn't trust you completely. But the Emperor overruled his objections. The treaty guarantees Earth's independence and territorial rights. We never wanted anything else, Russell said. I know, Edwards replied. That's what finally convinced the Emperor. Your people could have built weapons with your technology. Instead, you built exploration vessels. As they spoke, a message arrived for Russell. He read it and smiled broadly. Good news, Edwards asked. The best, Russell said. The United Nations just approved the Joint Research Initiative. Construction of the Humanity Imperial Science Academy will begin next month on Mars. Edwards nodded with approval. The Emperor will be pleased. He has developed a particular interest in human scientific methods. Across the Empire, the phrase human factor had entered the common language, a term for the creative chaos that these newcomers represented. Imperial universities were already adopting Earth-style open research programs. Young Imperial scientists were questioning traditional methods that had remained unchanged for millennia. Russell looked out at the stars again, thinking of home. Earth was just one tiny point of light among billions, yet it had changed the destiny of 1,000,000 worlds. For millennia, we have been the teachers of younger races, Emperor Zorix had told him privately after the treaty signing. Now we must learn to be students again. Your people have shown us that there are paths to the stars we never imagined. As Russell watched a small Imperial ship practicing a new flight pattern inspired by Earth designs, he realized that first contact had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. The panic was over. The partnership had begun. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same.